Sometimes the most powerful moments in a courtroom aren't about justice. They're about humanity. And what you're about to witness will change how you see both forever. A desperate father stands before Judge Frank Caprio, his voice breaking as he reveals a truth so devastating that it silences an entire courtroom. But what happens next? No one, not even the hardened court reporter, saw coming. The man's hands trembled as he approached the bench. "Your Honor," he whispered. "I know I messed up, but my daughter, she's dying." The room went dead silent. Judge Caprio leaned forward, and what he said next would be talked about for years. But before we tell you what shattered this courtroom, you need to understand how we got here. Because this wasn't just another traffic case. This was the moment that would define everything Judge Frank Caprio stands for. It was 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon in Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio had already handled 17 cases that day: parking violations, minor infractions, the usual stream of citizens who found themselves on the wrong side of municipal law. The August heat made the old courtroom stuffier than usual, and even the ancient air conditioning unit hummed louder, as if protesting the workload. Frank Caprio sat behind his bench, the same wooden fortress from which he had dispensed justice, mercy, and wisdom for over 3 decades. At 77 years old, he had seen it all, or so he thought. His silver hair was perfectly combed back, his black judicial robes pressed and dignified, but his eyes, those were what set him apart. They held warmth that no amount of legal training could teach. The bailiff called the next case, David Martinez, citation number 4-7-7-9-2-1. A man in his early 40s shuffled forward. David Martinez wore a wrinkled button-down shirt that had seen better days, jeans with a small tear near the left knee, and work boots that spoke of long hours on construction sites. His dark hair was unkempt, and deep circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept properly in weeks. But what no one in that courtroom knew was that David Martinez was about to deliver news that would stop Judge Caprio's heart. "Mr. Martinez," Judge Caprio began, consulting the papers before him, "you're here for accumulating 17 unpaid parking tickets over the past 4 months. The total fine comes to $1,850. How do you plead?" David Martinez stood silent for a moment, his hands clasped tightly in front of him. The courtroom waited. Court reporter Janet Morrison's fingers hovered over her stenotype machine. The bailiff, Officer Thompson, shifted his weight from one foot to the other. "Guilty, Your Honor," David finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Judge Caprio studied the man before him. Something wasn't right. In 33 years on the bench, Frank Caprio had developed an almost supernatural ability to read people. He could spot a lie from across the room, sense desperation in a defendant's posture, feel the weight of someone's story before they even told it. "Mr. Martinez, 17 parking tickets in 4 months tells me something. Are you working in the area where you received these citations?" "Yes, sir. Rhode Island Hospital." But what David Martinez said next would change everything Judge Caprio thought he knew about justice. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire that wouldn't die. Rhode Island Hospital. Judge Caprio's expression shifted subtly. Anyone who lived in Providence knew that hospital meant one of 2 things. You worked there, or someone you loved was fighting for their life there. "Are you employed by the hospital, Mr. Martinez?" "No, Your Honor." David's voice cracked slightly. My 8-year-old daughter Sofia has been there for the past 4 months. She has acute lymphoblastic leukemia." The courtroom went silent. Not the kind of silence that happens when someone's waiting for an answer, but the profound quiet that occurs when everyone suddenly understands they're witnessing something sacred. Court reporter Janet Morrison's hands stopped moving completely. Officer Thompson's usual stern expression softened. Judge Caprio leaned forward. "Tell me about Sofia." Those 4 words, "Tell me about Sofia," would later be quoted in newspapers, shared on social media, and remembered by everyone present as the moment they witnessed true judicial leadership. Because Frank Caprio didn't ask about the parking tickets. He didn't ask about payment plans or legal technicalities. He asked about a little girl. What happened next was so unexpected that the local news reporter in the gallery started recording on her phone. David Martinez's composure crumbled like a dam that had been holding back months of accumulated pain, fear, and exhaustion. His shoulders began to shake. His voice broke completely. She was diagnosed in April, Your Honor. The doctors, they said she needs intensive chemotherapy, possibly a bone marrow transplant. I've been living at the hospital, sleeping in the chair next to her bed. I can't afford the parking garage. It's $35 a day. So I've been parking on the street and running back and forth between her room and moving my car. Judge Caprio removed his reading glasses and set them down on the bench. The gesture was small, but everyone in the courtroom noticed. When Judge Caprio removes his glasses, something important is about to happen. How many hours a day are you at the hospital, Mr. Martinez? 18, sometimes 20 hours. I go home just to shower and change clothes. My wife works double shifts at the diner to keep our insurance and pay for Sofia's medical expenses that insurance won't cover. The judge's eyes swept across the courtroom. He could see the effect David's story was having on everyone present. The court clerk, Mrs. Rodriguez, was discreetly wiping her eyes. The public defender assigned to assist indigent defendants had stopped reviewing his next case file and was listening intently. But Judge Caprio was about to do something that would make headlines across the country. Mr. Martinez, where is Sofia now? She's in her room, room 412. She's having a treatment this afternoon. She always asks me to come back with a funny story about court. She thinks I come here for work meetings. Judge Caprio stood up. In 33 years of municipal court, he had never done what he was about to do. The bailiff looked confused. The court reporter glanced up from her machine. Everyone sensed something unprecedented was happening. Bailiff Thompson, please clear my calendar for the rest of the afternoon. Your Honor. Officer Thompson's voice carried a note of uncertainty. I said clear my calendar. Mrs. Rodriguez, please call Rhode Island Hospital and tell them Judge Caprio is coming to visit Sofia Martinez in room 412. Subscribe now and hit that notification bell because what you're about to see will restore your faith in humanity. And drop a comment below telling us about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. This had never happened before. Municipal court judges don't leave the bench to visit children in hospitals. They don't abandon their afternoon dockets for personal visits. They certainly don't get emotionally involved in the cases before them. But Frank Caprio had never been a typical judge. Your Honor, David Martinez stammered. You don't have to. Mr. Martinez, in 33 years on this bench, I've learned that sometimes the most important verdicts aren't delivered in courtrooms. They're delivered in hospital rooms, at kitchen tables, and wherever human beings need to be reminded that they're not alone. Judge Caprio removed his judicial robes, revealing a simple white dress shirt and dark slacks underneath. He folded the robes carefully and handed them to Mrs. Rodriguez. But first, let's address these parking tickets. He picked up his gavel and brought it down once. The sharp crack echoed through the silent courtroom. Case 4-7-7-9-2-1, David Martinez. All charges dismissed. Furthermore, Mr. Martinez, I'm issuing you a special parking permit for Rhode Island Hospital that will be valid for as long as Sofia needs treatment. Officer Thompson will escort you to get it processed immediately after we visit Sofia. But what Judge Caprio did next shocked everyone, including his own court staff. David Martinez began to cry. Not the quiet tears of relief, but the deep, body-shaking sobs of a man who had been carrying unbearable weight for months and suddenly felt some of it lifted. He tried to speak, tried to thank the judge, but no words came. Judge Caprio stepped down from his bench and walked over to David Martinez. He placed both hands on the man's shoulders and looked directly into his eyes. David, listen to me very carefully. You are not alone in this fight. Sofia is not alone in this fight. Do you understand me? Through his tears, David nodded. Good. Now let's go see that brave little girl of yours. I have a feeling she's going to teach me something about courage today. As they prepared to leave the courtroom, Judge Caprio turned to address everyone present. The court staff, the remaining defendants, the lawyers, and the news reporter who had been documenting everything. Ladies and gentlemen, court is adjourned for the day. But let me tell you something. Real justice isn't just about following the law. It's about recognizing that behind every case number, every citation, every fine, there's a human story. And sometimes, that story requires us to step outside these walls and remember why we became public servants in the first place. What happened at the hospital would bring the entire staff to tears and change hospital policy forever. The ride to Rhode Island Hospital took 12 minutes. Judge Caprio drove his own car, with David Martinez in the passenger seat, giving directions through residential neighborhoods that had been gentrified and others that still showed signs of economic struggle. David explained that Sofia had been asking why he had to leave so often, and he had told her he was going to important meetings with a very important man. Well, Judge Caprio smiled. I guess that wasn't entirely untrue. When they arrived at the hospital, something unexpected happened. Dr. Patricia Williams, Sofia's oncologist, recognized Judge Caprio immediately. Her face showed complete bewilderment. Judge Caprio? What are you doing here? I'm here to meet Sofia Martinez. She's been teaching her father about courage, and I thought she might have some lessons for an old judge too. Dr. Williams led them through the pediatric oncology ward. The hallways were painted in bright colors, with cartoon characters and inspirational quotes covering the walls. But underneath the cheerful decoration, the reality was unmistakable. This was where children fought for their lives. Room 412 had a pink door with a hand-drawn sign that read Sofia's room, in crayon. Judge Caprio knocked gently. Sofia, honey, it's Papa. I brought someone special to meet you. Come in, Papa. What they found in that room would change Judge Caprio's perspective on justice forever. Sofia Martinez was tiny for 8 years old, her dark hair thin from chemotherapy treatments. She wore a bright yellow hospital gown decorated with smiling suns, and despite the 4 lines and medical equipment surrounding her bed, her smile could have powered the entire hospital. Papa, did you bring me a funny story from your meeting? Judge Caprio stepped forward, and Sofia's eyes widened. Children have an instinct about people, an ability to sense kindness that adults often lose. Sofia knew immediately that this man was special. Sofia, this is Judge Caprio. He's the very important man I told you about. Sofia tilted her head, studying the judge with the serious expression that children use when they're trying to figure out something significant. Are you really a judge? Like on TV? I am. But I've never met anyone as brave as you. I'm not brave, Sofia said matter-of-factly. I'm just sick. But Papa says the medicine is going to make me better, and then we can go to Disney World. Judge Caprio sat down in the chair beside Sofia's bed. For the next hour, they talked about Disney World, about Sofia's favorite movies, about the drawings she had made for the nurses. Sofia showed him her brave book, a notebook where she wrote down one thing that made her happy each day. But then Sofia asked Judge Caprio a question that no one saw coming. Judge Caprio, can you help Papa? What do you mean, sweetheart? Papa thinks I don't know, but I heard him crying last night on the phone with Mama. He said he got in trouble for parking his car wrong, and he might have to pay a lot of money. We don't have a lot of money because my medicine costs so much. Can you help him not get in trouble? Judge Caprio looked at David Martinez, who was standing by the window, trying to compose himself. Then he looked back at Sofia, this 8-year-old girl who was more concerned about her father's parking tickets than her own cancer treatment. Sofia, your papa is never going to get in trouble for parking his car wrong again. I promise you that. Really? Really? And do you know why? Sofia shook her head. Because sometimes, when you love someone as much as your papa loves you, the whole world wants to help. Even judges. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that kindness still exists in this world. And make sure you're subscribed because stories like this remind us why Judge Caprio has become America's most beloved judge. Sofia's face lit up with pure joy. She clapped her hands together, forgetting for a moment about the 4 tubes attached to her small arms. Papa, did you hear that? You're not in trouble anymore. David Martinez walked over to his daughter's bedside, his eyes filled with tears of gratitude and relief. I heard, Mija. Judge Caprio is a very special man. But Judge Caprio wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone and made a call that would change everything for the Martinez family. Hello, this is Judge Frank Caprio. I need to speak with the hospital administrator immediately. Yes, I'll hold. While he waited, Sofia reached over and took the judge's free hand. Thank you for helping Papa. Are you going to be my friend now? Sofia, I would be honored to be your friend. When the administrator came on the line, Judge Caprio's voice took on the authority that had commanded courtrooms for over 3 decades. This is Judge Caprio. I'm calling about the Martinez family in room 412. I want to know what we can do about making parking easier for families with children receiving long-term treatment. Yes, I said we. I'm personally taking an interest in this case. What happened next would become the most talked about moment in Rhode Island hospital history. Within 30 minutes, the hospital administrator, Dr. Robert Chun, arrived at Sofia's room personally. Behind him were 2 other administrators and the head of the hospital's family services department. Judge Caprio, we've been discussing your call. We want to announce a new policy, effective immediately. Any family with a child receiving extended treatment at Rhode Island Hospital will receive complimentary parking passes for the duration of their child's care. The room fell silent. David Martinez looked like he couldn't process what he was hearing. Dr. Chun continued, furthermore, we're establishing the Sofia Martinez Family Support Fund to help families with the additional costs that come with having a child in long-term care. Judge Caprio, would you consider being on our advisory board? Sofia looked around the room with wide eyes. She might not have understood all the adult talk, but she knew something wonderful was happening. Does this mean Papa won't have to worry about his car anymore? That's exactly what it means, sweetheart, Judge Caprio said. And it means other papas and mamas won't have to worry either. Sofia clapped her hands again, this time with such enthusiasm that her favorite nurse, Maria, poked her head into the room to see what the celebration was about. But the most incredible moment was still to come. Dr. Williams, who had been quietly observing from the doorway, stepped forward with an update that no one expected. Sofia, I have some news about your latest test results. The room went quiet. David Martinez tensed, preparing for whatever news was coming. Your response to the current treatment protocol has been better than we hoped. Much better. If this trend continues, you might be able to go home sooner than we originally thought. Sofia looked at her father, then at Judge Caprio, then back at Dr. Williams. Does that mean I can go to Disney World? Dr. Williams smiled. If you keep being as brave as you've been, I think Disney World is definitely in your future. Judge Caprio stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city of Providence. For 33 years, he had believed that justice was about applying the law fairly and consistently. But standing in that hospital room, watching a sick little girl worry more about her father than herself, he realized that justice was about something much more profound. And what he said next would be quoted by judges across the country. Judge Caprio turned back to face everyone in the room. I've spent my entire career trying to understand what justice really means. I thought it was about punishment and consequences, about making sure people followed the rules. But Sofia has taught me something today that law school never could. He walked back to Sofia's bedside and took her small hand in his. Justice isn't just about rules, Sofia. It's about making sure that good people who are going through hard times know they're not alone. It's about using whatever power you have to help families like yours. That's what real justice looks like. Sofia squeezed his hand with surprising strength. Judge Caprio, will you come visit me again? Wild horses couldn't keep me away. As they prepared to leave, David Martinez pulled Judge Caprio aside. Your Honor, I don't know how to thank you. What you've done today, it's changed everything for our family. Judge Caprio placed his hand on David's shoulder. David, what you've been doing for Sofia every single day, that's real heroism. I just moved some cars around. You've been moving mountains. The impact of this day would reach far beyond one courtroom and one family. 6 months later, Sofia Martinez was declared in remission. The Sofia Martinez Family Support Fund had raised over $500,000 and helped 127 families. Rhode Island Hospital's new parking policy had eliminated financial stress for hundreds of families during the most difficult times of their lives. But the most lasting impact was on Judge Frank Caprio himself. He began incorporating family support services into his courtroom, connecting defendants with resources instead of just imposing fines. He started the Courtroom to Community program, where municipal court staff would make house calls to help families in crisis. The local news story about Sofia's case went viral, viewed over 12 million times. Comments poured in from around the world, with people sharing their own stories of unexpected kindness from strangers. Sofia Martinez, now in 4th grade and cancer-free, still sends Judge Caprio drawings and updates about her life. Last Christmas, she sent him a photo from Disney World with a note that read, "Thank you for helping Papa and for being my friend. You're the best judge in the whole world." The photo sits framed on Judge Caprio's desk, next to his law degree and judicial commendation awards. Because sometimes the most important recognition doesn't come from legal institutions. It comes from an 8-year-old girl who learned that the world is full of good people willing to help when things get scary. Judge Frank Caprio proved that day that leadership isn't about the power to punish. It's about the wisdom to know when mercy serves justice better than any fine ever could. And in that hospital room, surrounded by the laughter of a brave little girl, he discovered that the best verdicts aren't delivered from behind a bench. They're delivered from the heart.